Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Francois Lafleur. Unfortunately, Charles Dinan couldn't be here today, like most of you probably know. He is in California, right by them fires. So it's been a pretty scary venture for those guys. Yeah, you know, he had to stay with the family to make sure everything was fine. So Source Sound has basically three divisions. We have a game trailer divisions, which is more, held by Charles. We have a, movie, cinematic trailers, which is mostly held by Tim Gedimer, and the VR division, which, I'm pretty much the audio lead, and Tim is a supervisor as well. I left Tim's name on the presentation because we built this presentation for an AES talk that we did at Avar in Seattle. And it was a different sort of room as well. It was a room which everybody had headphones, so there's a lot about the renderers and how it comes across. So we can hear, some of that through the speakers, but not all the time. Like we do an A/B in between resonance, for example, and Oro 3D. And on headphones, it's pretty obvious. On speaker, you're gonna be like, yeah, okay, I can hear grain, I can hear, some difference, but it's not, obviously as drastic. So a bit about myself. So I started video games in 1999, and I got into this because I wanted to write music for video games. And back in those days, we did music, actually. We actually composed and recorded music for, soundtracks. And then we were right on the cusp of the PlayStation 2, which allowed for 5.1 mixing in video games and home theaters and that whole era. So that was exciting because we didn't know what to do with 5.1. Where are we going to go with this? What do you put in the centers, in the rear? Is that distracting? Is that too much? Do you put the voice there? How do you deal with all these things? So it was very exciting times, and a lot of experimentation went on, and nothing was wrong, really. We tried stuff, and some things worked, some things didn't, and it was all good. It was part of that world. Carried on, I started to do sound design for games. And I discovered that you can have elements, little bits of sounds that you can place together in a game engine, and they create sound design. They create bits and something that not even the creator knows it's gonna happen. You play the game and sounds just kind of happen, and you tweak for hours on end because you don't know exactly what's gonna happen. You try to control the behaviors. So I got really excited about that. Later on, moved to Montreal, did EA Montreal, BioWare for a while. And then a couple of years later, Source Sound came and said, hey, VR, what do you think? Do you know 3D audio? I'm like, no, that sounds exciting though. It sounds like something that I could get into. It's new, nobody knows how it works. The renderers, what is the renderer? This is the same thing as a binauralizer. Ambisonic, what is that? Third order, first order, and you start reading on Ambisonic on Wikipedia, and you've got a weekend covered, and your head's gonna be messed up, and no drugs, no alcohol, nothing, just Ambisonic text, that's all. So I started to get really, kind of get into it, but the first thing that hit me with 3D audio is, sorry I'm gonna say that, but I pick up a pair of headphones, listen to it, and I'm like, it doesn't really sound good, It doesn't sound like I'm used to listening to my music. You crank it up and it's satisfying, It hits, you watch a movie, it hits the big explosions, it's big, love it. Games are getting like this as well, obviously, we've come a long, long way since the 90s. But yeah, so to me, to wear a headset and to listen to VR, 3D audio, I'm like, there's no bass, no subwoofer. I'm like, are we stepping backwards? That's kind of my first reaction to this. But then you realize, you go, oh, hang on, it's just not the same goal. We're not in the same vision. One is to, bam, impress you, and it's big, and wow, in your home theater. But most experience in VR, and don't get me wrong, there's a wide range of experience, and we'll get into that. But at first, you go, okay, well, it's all about the immersion. It's all about getting you in a place and make you feel that you're in that place. And all of a sudden, you go, okay, I'm not listening for the right thing, or for the same thing anyways. And so you go on top of Everest, and now you're like, you hear Everest, and you turn your head, and the whole ambience, turns with your head, and you have all these details, and you go, wow, okay, all these things that are there to make you believe that you're in that space. Not the same goal at all. But then we have experiences that kind of mixes both. So those are kind of like, we see, like, being part of Source Sound, we see all sorts of experiences. I'm going to talk about 3 different, very, very different experiences today. So, first of all, Source Sound has these philosophy that really aligned with me when we started talking about, sounds, and I've been, talking with Charles for years. And a lot of these philosophy has been growing over the years, and I believe them, so I just wanted to, quickly mention them. So first of all, every project, we strive to create a unique and compelling audio experience. Obviously, you want something that people, if they don't remember it, at least when they're in the moment, they're in the experience, it's something that pushes the media. And then it pushes the media, but then it has to, the media is the first form. Audio is there to support that media. You can't pass it. If someone goes, oh, did you hear the explosion? I heard a lion, that sounded so good. Well, you lost your audience right there. And the people that know me in this room know that I always say these things. Like, if you hear the lion, you went too far and people are not experienced anymore. If you're aware of it and you listen for it, that's a different story. You tell a story. So I talked about it a little bit with the little sound effects. The one thing that when I was on EA Skate is what I realized is everything has a story. An explosion has a story. A skateboard jumping has a story. Like you take the sound, you just go, the skate, you hit it on the ground, it goes up in the air, and all these little movement is a story. The explosion, the earth's rumbling, the ambience, like you were talking about, everything is about telling a story. And you put all these pieces together, and you have all these stories coming together. And that's actually kind of a pillar in anything I do. I try to tell a story. Obviously, in video games, we always fight for the highest audio quality. We have compressions. We have all sorts of ways to do things. And quite honestly, what I do most of the time is I go to the client, and I go, hey, we have option A, which will give you that, and we have option B, which is a trade-off, but you won't get this, but you will get that instead. And so you let him decide. I try to be as transparent as possible with the client to say, hey, we've got options, but if you want to bend on your side, then we can get this. But quite often, they don't understand what's going on. So it's all about letting them know. They do, but I hear people laugh. I can't believe it. That's a bit different one. That's one that Tim came up with, and I absolutely love the idea. Is you try to design audio that has kind of like a timeless quality to it. Like, you hear something from the 90s. Listen to Terminator 2. That sounded so good in the 90s. Well, just pop it in your DVD player today, and you go, wow, the gunshot sound even, like you hear it and you go, wow, that's so 90s. But it sounded great. It still sounds great. It's a different fashion. So that's a big trait of Source Sound. Like you've heard the game trailers that they do, the cinematic trailers that they do. And the VR, we're trying to do the same thing, basically. And in 5 years, in 10 years, we go, yeah, that's fresh, that's new, it's different, it's original, but it doesn't sound old. So I like the idea quite a bit. And then something that we see often in what we do, we serve a lot of clients. It's not like being at EA or being with a big company. So we don't always set the vision. It's not part of our company. We're hired to set a vision. So yes, we have our place to talk and say, hey, we'd like to do this, or what do you think about that? And we have our room, and of course, like we take a lot of opportunities that way. But in the end, the client is the client. And if he says, no, I don't believe in this, I want this, then sometimes we do need to fall back and respect that. And in the end, actually, I'll have to say that you work with the vision, and everybody's happy at the end, including ourselves. Oh, yeah. And then using tech to generate innovative ideas. I've talked about skate again. I'll come back to it just because that was monumental. I had just little pieces of audio creating new. And so it's really fun. And VidVR, we'll see an example there with Wwise, where we stumble across something, and it just became, feature number 1 of everything we do today. Oh, trade secret. All right. So I've talked about a little bit of the vision so far. We're going to talk about 3 projects today. We're going to talk about Pixar Coco VR, which was a project is very actually close to a video game. You have interactive areas, you've got cinematics, you've got all the elements that you would find in a video game. And then we're going to talk about Dreamscape, Alien Zoo. Dreamscape is an LBE. If you don't know what an LBE is, hang on, it's coming. And this is basically a VR experience on the stage. And then lastly, we're going to talk about CNN, which is a portal, a news portal that we built, which is, it's not about the news. It's not about the news. It's all about the sound design. It's all about the sound design. You're there again to push what the content is supposed to be the news. So it's not about, your sounds. It's about presenting something, but more than that is representing a big company as big as CNN. As everything that you put in there is associated with their name. So everything has to fit their style. And so, we've done a few things, but we'll go through it. Coco. Well, first of all, I got to say that it was a very, very fun and inspiring project. The team was great. We met, I'll just go down. We met a couple of times a week with Pixar, and Magnopus was the team responsible to build the project. And the project was about 3 months. Now, this is something that we it's our reality, so to speak. Like, we don't have time to do a month of pre-production. We don't get the R&D time, unless we're in between projects and we don't have a lot of things, which doesn't tend to happen a lot. So there's not a lot of time for experimentation other than trial and error, and then we have a bug, so we have to try solution B and triaging different bugs, which give us the chance to just stumble across something else. So back in the Coco days, 3 months was not a lot. The experience about 20 minutes. We have one of the scene is just 4 pieces of animations, timelined in Unity, and way back when we didn't have the timeline feature in Unity. It was a little bit complex. So yeah, of course it had to be head tracking like everything else. And then the experience was coming out at the same time as the movie. So we had to be the movie. We had to sound like the movie, and everything had to be made in the style of the movie. And we had about 4 or 5 audio engineers, sound designers working on the project, full time, on and off, and then a couple special sound designers for key moments. So what I want to talk about Coco first is the audio spatializers. We had a little bit of R&D time, and it was our first time working with Unity and Wwise together. And so, well, first of all, I, for one, wanted to understand how to, build a pipeline. So I spent a lot of phone calls, and thank you for all of you. Max is in the room. About just questions and just, the way that we're supposed to build our pipeline, or what's the best way, because there's a couple of ways. We're going to go through them. So first options that you're going to see in renderers, binarizer, is the virtual speaker spatialization. When I first came across that, I read about it, and I was trying to make it play good and try to, but I have to be honest, and I never heard, maybe I'm wrong, but I never heard a virtual speaker spatialization actually sound convincing to me. There's always a place where it phases, or it adds, there's always some bumps. I always feel that it's bumpy. So I kind of discarded it pretty fast without too much, I didn't research it too much. Another thing that we found was in between the spatializers, if you're using, resonance or aural headphones, the distance between an object and the listener doesn't change, but the binauralizer changes that. So you can be in one, and it, the fire feels like 4 meters away. You close your eyes, and then you switch binauralizer, and then the other one sounds 2 meters, and you're like, oh, okay, well how do I make that work? Because we may have encountered something like we need to do more compression, optimization, and aural headphones. I'm jumping ahead of myself here, but aural headphoons cost a lot of CPU, and resonance about, what is it, 10% less? It's 15%, no, 10 to 15% on aural headphones on PC, and about 1.5 with resonance. So, and then if you go with Oculus, then you drop down to 0.1, I think it is. It's very, very small. So anyways, so that's something to take account for. We had that situation on Coco. I'll talk about it right now, we had that situation on Coco where we're going through a project, Oro headphones in, we have our pipeline all done, and it's beauty, it sounds good, and then the client goes, okay, so next week we need to do a port for mobile, and we're like, sorry, pardonius, did you, mobile? We never talked about this. Oh yeah, we want to do a mobile. That's great, cool. So we're using room verb, a lot of it, and we're using, Oro headphones, and we're like, okay, so now what? So yeah, so that's how we discovered that Oro has this little setting that you can go, okay, you know what, a little farther, a little bit. And so we were able to match, resonance to Oro headphones. It's a bit of information. So we tried really at that time anyways, we tried really 4 different binauralizers. So binauralizers, for those that don't know, is basically taking an ambisonic signal and putting it down to basically a headphones. So you have a 3D mix, so you can move your head and you're feeling the 5.1 into your headphones. And actually, just a side note, this is VR, but I still don't understand why more game people don't do that. And I've been suggesting it to people around. It's just, binauralizing and ambisonic is not reserved for VR. It's so cool to be able to have a soup playing and you just put it in the game and it head tracks. And all of a sudden, it gives you so much money, I feel, to do that. Because so many gamers play with headphones these days that, I don't know, I think it's a consideration to think about. So Oro 3D, Google Resonance, and then I got this, VS, Oculus, and RealSpace 3D, because basically they're kind of like 2 different families. That's one thing that we found out, the first day of trying binauralizers. The busing structure. So I go right up to the screen, but I can't do that, so I'll just point my laptop. Oh, there's a clicker? This is okay, well, do you guys know Wwise a little bit? Yeah, sure, we're at MIGS, right? So we have the busing structure on the left-hand side of what typically you would do in Wwise. And we have the non-environmental bus, which is for the music or anything that doesn't need to be spatialized. You don't want it to go through any of the spatialization, which is basically the binauralization. And then up top on the environmental bus, we have clicker. Pas clicker, mais look at that, laser clicker. Cool. So we have our effects. That's part of the environmental chain. And then you have the other side of plugins, which is Oculus and RealSpace 3D, which they use a mixer plugin. So what a mixer, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with mixer plugins, but it's basically you put it on your bus and then sound by sound you say, okay, this sound has these parameters. You have, is it an ambisonic sound? Is it a regular sound? Do you want your attenuation X, Y, da, da, da? And it's kind of cool. At first, I was like, oh, yeah, it's giving us a lot of control on each sound. I kind of like that. I like control. I'm a control freak, actually. But then I realized that we were actually losing because it kind of feels like, oh, wrong button. It feels like we have a mixer and we have a mixer. So I'm like, what? Am I mixing in parallel to go back to my usual mixer? But then I'm not binauralizing everything. I'm just kind of like, taking parts of it and my head just went, I don't understand. So, we tried a few things with, Oro 3D and resonance, and I was quite happy with that button that was at the wrong place. But I was quite happy with the Wwise architecture already. I'll leave it at that for now. And we're going to listen to a quick example. Actually, that's an A-B. So we're going to listen to, first of all, the gondola ride, which is a clip where the 4 animations I was talking earlier. So you get on the gondola ride, you can't do anything, you can head track, and that's it. So you see the world of Coco, and then you just go down the trail. Now, we wanted to do all sorts of fancy stuff. We wanted to have like emitters, we wanted to have doors, but it came so late and we were so busy with everything else, and we ended up just mixing an ambisonic mix. And so this is the first part of the test, is to hear, okay, so if we have an ambisonic only source, how is this going to sound through both renderers? So this is already Oro 3D first. Let's draw resonance. Can you hear a bit of a difference? Yeah? You really hear it in the grain, kind of like of the sound is quite different. When you have headphones, you can actually hear the spatiality as well when you rotate your head. And the next example is going to show a little bit of more of this. So it's all mono sources. There wasn't ambience that we stripped out just so you could hear just mono signals throughout the room. No, not you. All right.
Greetings! Welcome to the land of the dead. Don't you worry, your time in the land of the living is not yet over. However, you are expected on stage at the Plaza de la Cruz. So choose a look that suits you and be on your way. Enjoy!
Let's try resonance.
Greetings! Welcome to the land of the dead. Don't you worry, your time in the land of the living is not yet over. However, you are expected on stage at the Plaza de la Cruz. So choose a look that suits you and be on your way. Enjoy!
So actually, I forgot to introduce the costume shop. The costume shop's a room in Coco where you go up to 4 people and you put on costume. You can take your head, you can throw your head, you can do all sorts of things in there. You can play a record player, and just the fact to be there with many people on headphones and you hear them and you hear you and you change your clothes and you hear the little kalakadolls, you call them, on the desk. It was just a rich experience, and it's crazy. Like sometimes, Tim and I were just in there testing the game, and we're like, dude, we've been in here for 30 minutes. Let's just move on. It's fun. So here's where Wwise won, though, and it's a major, major win, and forever, you guys will be happy I said that, and it's a lot, it's a good trick. So ambisonic signals, of course, you get into a bubble of ambisonic. You have things placed around you. And when we did the busing structure, I didn't understand how you could use the attenuation on an ambisonic signal. And then we had a couple of discussions and realized that, in fact, you can position an ambisonic signal. And then my head went just like, boom, explode. So does that mean that I can actually position a sound here and walk towards the sound and at some point enter that bubble and be part of that ambisonic field? I'm sorry if you guys figured it out already and thought it was benign, but when I caught on, I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm freaking out. And so we used it like basically everywhere in this project and many other projects. And as a matter of fact, we just don't think about it. And when we go back to a project that doesn't have Wwise, it's like, how do we do this? We don't have the positional ambisonic signals. How do we do this? Anyways, very excited, obviously. So basically, what it does is that it gives you the 6 DUF on an ambisonic field, which usually you would just have 3 DUF, which for the people that don't know, it's degree of freedom. So 6 degree of freedom, meaning that you can walk around in all direction and look up and look down and bend, and so that's 6, and the 3 is the 3 without moving. So those are the 2 differences. So here, getting ready for another sound example here. So we have the plaza. So what we did in here is we have a mariachi band here, and then we have a cinema screen here where they play tidbits of the movie. It's kind of interesting. And then there's the middle of the plaza here, and there's a little costume thing where you can put hats and glasses and hang out. There's a photo booth and an elevator as well. So what we did is, and first of all, when we started working on a project, you could walk freely everywhere. And then people are getting nausea. As you know, it's kind of a thing with VR. You get nausea, and there's stairs. So we had a clicker, so you click in your position. That's what you saw me do in the custom shop. You can walk, but in my living room, you can't walk that much. So anyways, so we have an ambisonic signal, wrong button, right here we're the mariachi band, so we're on the other side, and the ambisonic as well responds to reverb, right? So the whole ambisonic is going through a room verb, which you pretty much hear exclusively when you're at the other end, and then the closer you get to the band, then you hear the band obviously louder, like anything, like any video games, but then it wraps around your head a little bit. And then in the movie theater, it's even more so, where you go to the movie and you turn your head and you kind of hear the people on that side, still a little bit of the movie. And since it's Pixar and it's a Pixar project, we went a little farther with the movie. We tricked it a little bit wider. But yeah, the attenuation between the 2 ambisonic fields and to get into a bubble from one bubble to the next is just so much fun. And same with the elevator. You get into the elevator. We have this recording of the ambisonic recording of that, not that elevator, obviously, but an elevator, an old-style elevator. We have the hinge that's fully interactable, little music and a little pulley that goes by, which is mono, but putting all these formats together just creates a rich environment. Here's for a little plaza example. And you gotta love the RTPCs that allow you to put flanger on the little fizzies in about 5 minutes, and you just go, yeah, that's done. The client goes, wow, how did you do it? Like, it moves faster when you move faster. You go, yeah, it's just magic. Love it. One of the things I didn't mention is actually, of course, the movie was not in 5.1 when we got it. It was a stereo file. So quite often what we'll do is we'll upmix. We use New Gen quite a bit, and if you, the way you position your rears, and the reverb, and there's always a pocket at some point where you go through the binaural, and then you can actually take a stereo file and ambisonic it. It's been a new word for us. We ambisonic a stereo file. But yeah, you basically upmix it to a 5.1 and then bounce it to ambisonic. Important to note that Ambisonic right now, most of the files playing this build in all our project, they're first order, which means it's 4 channels. Ambisonic has, well, a number of orders, but right now, second and third, it's pretty much as far as we can go. And then Pro Tools just started supporting third order, which is 16 channels. So one of the drawback of utilizing Ambisonic is you're not getting that same resolution. So you hear distinct files, and you put that down to an Ambisonic, and it's cool because it's free. You just put it in, you have the head tracking, everything's playing at once. But on the other side, everything tends to be a little bit more blurry. So I feel like a mix of the two and the way that you're playing with your files and format is actually crucial to any good project. So just a little tidbit. If you're not convinced about my little Wise Wind, let me show you another level where there's a band playing on stage, and for many reasons, when you hear a band playing, we could have played each instrument with each instrument, but nothing mixes music more than offline mixing. You mix it, you compress it, you can really just do moves and just the whole thing. So we felt that the mixing in Ambisonic first would give us that energy that a band creates, and plus we didn't have all the instruments on stage. But again, at first we were like, well, we can't, because it's VR, and you want to put your head in between the trumpet player and the bass player and the guitar player, and you want to hear that. And again, head blown. Listen to that. Oh, no, you're at the plaza, and I'm just sitting here, just quite happily. Listen to that. DLC Plaza.
Hey! Okay, you, come on, yell. Give me your best grito.
Come on!
You're funny. Come on, 1, 2, 3.
So I'm not sure how much it comes across in the room, but on headphones, it's just really amazing to just put your head in between. You go, what? This is amazing. It's one file. Anyways, so we spent a lot of time on Coco. Hey, okay. Moving on to Alien Zoo. Dreamscape. Dreamscape is a very new company. We just finished another project with them. Alien Zoo was pretty much our first project that they released and actually showed to the public. If you know a company named The Void, they're pretty much, they're equivalent. They're not the same kind of experience at all, but it's an LBE. So LBE, virtual reality. So what is LBE? We talked about it briefly earlier. LBE is basically, you go on site somewhere, you put a VR mask, and you jump on a stage. And there you have haptics. You have, like, you know, if you have a horse, you can touch it, then there's going to be a haptics, like a metal thing with a hairy head, and then you just touch it. But you're seeing the horse in your glass, and you stretch your arm and you touch a horse, and that is just wow. The guy goes, hang on to the rail, and you back away, and you touch the rail, and the rail is there. It's just like, to me, like my brain just went disconnect. I'm like, whoa, I'm immersed. That's it. Say no more. I'm there. I'm just part of that zoo right now. So that's quite amazing. We'll come back on some other haptic features, but yeah, that was quite revealing to me when we first worked on this. So for this project, we didn't have Wwise. We had native Unity, and we ended up using ONSP. Quite honestly, we didn't have time to do tests, to do anything else. It was just like, brr. The project was also about 3 months long, and it was our first LBE, first haptic. It was a lot to take in, a lot of things, and of course it's Unity. So when you want to do a fade, because the music, I'm getting ahead of myself again, but when you do a fade because you want the music to change someplace, well, you have to make sure the beat is not playing, because you can't really change on the beat, and we don't have a year and a half to do a music system here. It's 3 months, so okay, let's do that, and we have to build an ambient system. There's not a lot of interactivity in that experience, but still, there's a couple moments where it's like, well, the player could be longer or not, or maybe if we drop frames, you always have to, of course, account for all these beautiful things that video games do. Of course, it has to be spatial head tracking, and then, yeah, it's a new company. That's a very interesting mix of people, actually. You have, the creatives, which are mainly from the movie business, and then the other part, which is, part of the ride community. So, like, a lot of the ride people. And then you have a small, team of Unity programmers, which are machines. So, anyways, a great team to work with. So, yeah, and we got the chance to experience with a lot of different haptics and techniques and stuff like that. So the challenges that we had. So like I said, Dreamscape is Alien Zoo was a more cinematic experience, not so much interactivity. The first scene was about 10 minutes. So you've got 10 minutes of a scene, and when I first saw it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like, it's like a big cinematic. We're just gonna, do it like a movie, put the file in Unity, we're done. This is awesome, it's gonna be easy. But no, of course not, because it's in 360. So first of all, you turn on the game and you go, or the experience, and you go, how are we going to capture the birds that are there, and the dinos and the this and the that, and I can't do 17,000 captures of this, and we're playing this thing in Unity, and so we researched and found this program that allows you to capture in equi-rectangular, basically a 360 angle. And so we went ahead with that. But that was the first challenge. And when you go to post it, then you've got 360 to cover. So, okay, well, maybe not so easy in the end. You have the visual reference. What is north? If you see a bird here, if you mix ambisonic, is it going to be at 70 degrees, at 130? Just some of the elements we could actually afford to have pinpointed, sounds. Some of them, it was just ambisonic field, but no, we don't have Wise, so we can't have positional, so we have to be smart about the way that we position. Like, for example, the Mantis, we had an ambisonic file, a reverb file, a mono file, and a stereo file, which I'm getting to the point, I'll come back to that, it's too important. Maintaining sync. So you're in a project that they're building in their facility, everybody's got a backpack, basically a PC on their back, they have the glasses, so it's a different thing together. And then the frame rate. How's the frame rate? Is it going to be consistent? What I'm capturing at home, is this what they're seeing over there? If we do the ambiances, is that going to be just like questions, wall of them, and right? So, and then time management. I'm talking about this scene that's 10 minutes, and you can't jump right in the middle to start it because you have to start the experience from the beginning every time. So that Mantis that sits at the 9th minute of the 10th. Well, you do 4 tweaks, and there goes an hour, and it's a 20 minutes experience, 15 minutes experience. So, time just go bam, that time flies, and you're running after it all the time, and you're just polishing, right? You're just doing mix passes. So tricks come in, you do a pass, you capture your pass, and you take notes, and you go, this is too loud, 2 dBs, and then you're in Unity. So it's not 2 dBs, no, it's like, I'm going to bring it down by 0.2, and then it's between 0 and 1. So it's just, guesstimate what that would be less or more. I'm sitting at 0.6, I want 3 dB less. Okay, I'm going to go 4.5, 4 or 5, whatever, you get the picture. And so, so that took a lot of time. And then, so what I was explaining before is the audio flow. Again, I love Unity. I think it's very flexible. It's great to be able to just write a quick script, get your sound, you get it exactly on the moment where you want because you find that moment in the game and the script that's associated with it. Very powerful. But not having a loop feature, not having a fade in, not having a fade out, not having a play and release, loop and release, all the basic things that we don't think about because we work in Pro Tools or whatever DAW we're working in. All of a sudden you want to do a fade or a loop and it's complicated. You just go, wow. But anyways, here's the first scene I've been talking about. Part of it. I'm not going to let you sit through 10 minutes. And there it is.
Now, as we enter the Allurian forest, do be sure to keep any food you brought with you out of sight of the Muri, which should translate roughly to you as frog cat. These 3 tend to be the cheekiest of the bunch. Can't you guys give it a rest? They've got nothing for you. Yes, we see you. Goodbye. If I know Muri, we'll be seeing these 3 again. On this fallen branch, you'll be able to see one of the galaxy's most extraordinary species. It's an insect, so you'll need to look closely. See it there? No? Perhaps try making some noise to get it moving. Go ahead. Clap, yell, anything to wake it up. It looks like siesta time is over for the giant mantis of Illyria. But don't worry, its saliva is perfectly safe, though it has been known to promote rapid hair growth in humans. I simply knew you three would be back. Can't I finish my tour in peace? He wants you to roll in the ball. Go ahead, pick it up. Now roll it back to them, or we'll be here all day.
So that's kind of fun. It's a fun adventure. I forgot to say that we did turn off the music for this example, just to, for the sake of the demonstration. So the trick to Alien Zoo, I'm going to try to hurry up a little bit because I realize I've been taking already quite a bit of time. We came up with a bunch of formulas for Alien Zoo just to speed things up, like I'm going to do right now. So basically, we used every format that you could for the best, for the best situation. So it's a mix of ambisonic, stereo, mono-localized, or mono-spatialized. You can't really spatialize stereo because it doesn't do that well. But yeah, so you're utilizing, if you want something big Hollywood, then we're going to use a stereo file and we're going to localize it. So it'll sound from that place, but it's not going to be part of the spatialization. So it's not going to be as smooth when you turn your head, but still you're going to be able to get the punch, the low end that you need from, a Hollywoodized sound. Don't forget that these people are coming from Hollywood. They're expecting to pick up their headphones and to have the experience as big as they would have in their theater, because otherwise it's not going to sound good enough, right? So we're trying to, all these tricks to make it bigger and to make it more precise and to make it just more everything. And then we get to the haptics at some point, and the haptics are basically, there's some low, basically LFEs under the stage, a bunch of them. And what they are is to make the stage vibrate. What they use to make the stage vibrate is, obviously, it's audio. But so we're going to, this, and we're tweaking the haptics in this one session. We show up there and, I don't know, sheer accident, we sit there and the whole mix of the experience of bounds that we had done plays through the experience because it was hooked up on something, whatever, a bug. But then we heard all this coming through the haptics. And we hear frequencies. I'm like, oh, the crossover is up to the 200 well, and maybe we can hear up to 500. It's like, okay, discovery. We can actually play some of this audio a little bit rolled up a little louder, so it'll take your whole body. Basically, you have the headphones, and it comes down to your body, up down to the very, very base. So anyways, that was a little trick that we discovered there that we didn't actually have the chance to use that much on that particular project. But yeah, more projects are coming. And you live, you learn. So I want to play one more clip of Alien Zoo. Think about all these formats, because there's a big animal is in your face. You want it big, you want the lows, but you want it also precise and moving with your headphones. Again, that's presentation was made for headphones, but you'll get the gist of it.
Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we turned off the voice for this one. Well, I'm sorry, you got to see about 20 frames of the picture there because it's very black on black, and yeah. So that's it. So basically, what we learned out of Dreamscape, one of the big takeaways was, okay, so we can play with the format. So we don't have to play everything ambisonic or mono. We can actually decide to spatialize or to localize it, but still, it's a Wild West. We can do whatever we want, and we can do things the way we want for, the greater goods of the project. I'm gonna go really fast on this last one, because it's gonna be very quick. It will. CNN VR. So basically taking the takeaways from Coco, which was, a lot of the spatializers, the Wwise busing structure, and then gathering what we understood now with the Dreamscape and the opportunities that we have to play with a different format, we went ahead and creating, CNN VR. So CNN was just about really the vision. I talked about it a little bit at the beginning. It's all about how do we make the future of news. How do we identify our sounds with CNN? The tech, not so much. Ooh, we can't really see that very much. So it was a RO 3D. It was using Unity and it was using Wwise as well. So that was a no-brainer. And then that was about 2.5 months. So very short, but again, like all we needed to do was basically cover the sound design. And for the sound design, we went very, very organic. We didn't want it to sound sci-fi. It had to be futuristic, but not sci-fi. Let's play the clip. Oh, sorry. Double sorry.
This is CNN in virtual reality.
Thank you very much. Contacts email are there. Charles's, if you want to ask questions specifically, Tim and mine. We don't have time for questions. I went 50 minutes, 49 minutes and 53 seconds.